Okay guys, welcome back to the shop. I'm going to do just a really quick but fairly simple and hopefully informative video on hooking up the KBAC 27D VFD to the motor. So when you order a KBAC, you basically get this with a plug in the power outlet here, and they leave it up to you how you're going to power the unit, whether you're going to hook up an external switch, or in this case you can order an optional toggle switch setup, and I believe this setup is around $25 or $30. I actually order my own switches and I wire them myself. Save a few dollars in bulk, but if you order the kit, this is pretty much what will show up is the toggle switch with the wires on it already, and a number of small zip ties there. So what you do is you'll pull out that plug and discard it. You don't need that. Undo the 4 screws, pull up a little bit, and swing the unit open. And I have some pre-wiring done here, so don't pay attention to this right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the little retaining nut off there, and there's a little slot in there, and you'll just match that up to the tab in the cover, slide in the toggle switch, and tighten this down here. If I can get my fingers to work today. There we go. So there's your toggle switch. Down, position, off. So then your 4 wires here correspond to these jumpers on the right hand side, and those will be labeled L1A, L1B, L2A, and L2B. So what you do is you pull those 2 jumpers off, and you can just discard those. Those are not needed. So we'll start with the upper left hand corner of the toggle switch, the first blue wire, and this wire will go to your L1A tab. So you find your L1A and plug that in. Your bottom left, which is your second blue wire down here, goes to your L1B, which is right above that. Then your upper right hand corner, your first white wire, okay, that goes to L2A, right there, and of course L2B for the last white wire. So plug that in there, and then you just kind of bundle your wires together nice and neat, and put some of your zip ties on there just to keep your installation looking good. Keep the wires from touching other components inside the case. So we'll put 3 or 4 of those on there. And take your time to do this. Electricity is not something to mess around with. This is the way I do it, and do this at your own risk. This is probably the 20th or 30th one that I've wired, so it gets to be easy after a while. So there's all your wires routed really nice, and then when you close your case, you'll just kind of push that back out of the way, and it'll coil up nice inside the cavity there. Okay, now we're going to move on to your power. I'm running this specific VFD on 220, so I have a ground wire coming in, I have 1 hot wire and a second hot wire, so 2 hots and a ground. If you were to run this VFD on 110 power, then you would have a black hot, your white common, this would be your white common, and then also your ground. And that's how you would run this on 110. And then off to the left hand side, you could see, I don't know if you can see on the video, but on the left hand side, the 3 connectors here is marked motor, U, V, and W. That's your 3 phases for your 3-phase motor. So We have a ground wire coming in. Actually, I should say going out. This will be going out to your motor. So you have your ground wire and 3 fields. And they're marked U, V, and W, and I usually go black, red, and white. It doesn't really matter too much. When you hook this up and you start it, if your motor is running in reverse, then you can switch any 2 wires and it'll change the direction of your motor. So what we're going to do here on the power in, I don't know if you can see past this lip, but there's a grounding terminal right here, so we'll loosen that up. And I've crimped spade connectors on there already to make it easier. So we'll just slide that onto that post and tighten it down. And then our 2 hot leads will go on to L1. So black will go on to L1. And my red, which is my second hot, will go on to line 2. And again, if you're running 110, your white common would go on to L2. So there's our power in. Okay, and then on our out to our motor, our 3-phase out to our motor, we're going to also, very important, hook up the ground. And then our 3 phases. And like I said, just to keep it standard, I always go black, red, and white. So there's our first one into U. V, which I always use red. And W, white. And we'll hook that up there. So that's basically all your connections inside the VFD. You could actually go ahead and close that up now. There's other jumpers and pots that do different things, and I won't get into that. That's a subject for a different video. But as it comes from the factory, if you're running 220, that's all you have to do. It comes pre-configured to run on 220, and that's your basic connections there. So we'll take and fold that up in there and close it up. And even if your motor gets hooked up and it runs backwards, instead of swapping your wires, any 2 wires there, you can just swap them at the motor, and that'll reverse your rotation. And we'll go over that in just a second here. Always want to make sure to tighten this back down to compress that gasket. That gives you your IP65 infiltration dust control there. So there's your power is hooked up. And on this particular one is a special order, so I have this actually set up with an aircraft style connector. So, and I haven't tightened down that strain relief. So this will connect together, and there's only one way for it to go together. So if you want to disconnect your VFD to move things around, it makes it that easy to do. So I've pre-stripped these, ready to go, and we're going to take and run these in here in our strain relief. And these will run in to the junction box of the motor. And I'll just kind of feed that all the way through there. And you'll notice I haven't crimped anything on there. And usually what I'll do on this end, I'll crimp on a connector just onto the ground. Because there is a grounding lug right here inside the J box. So I'll take and loosen that up. I'll pull that back a little ways, and then I'll just hook up that little connector onto the grounding lug and tighten that down. And there we go. Okay, and so that leaves us with our 3 fields for the motor. White, black, and red. So, pretty common practice on a 3-phase motor, and especially this is a tech top motor. You'll have 3 wires that are tied together, and then you'll have 3 sets of 2 that will correspond with your field output from the VFD. So in this case, on this tech top motor, wires number 4, 5, and 6 are bound together, and then you can just push those back into the J box out of the way. That's all you have to do with those. Then you have your 3 other sets. And again, for this tech top motor, this 2 horsepower motor, you have wire number 1 and number 7 tied together. That'll go to one field. You have wire number 2 and number 8. That'll go to another field. And then 3 and 9 will go to your third field. So we'll go ahead and hook these up. Just disconnect that. Choose any of your 3. Put your wire net on there. And we can push that back out of the way. Your second set of field wires. Push that out of the way, and then your last pair. So I'm not an electrician, but through building these and doing my own research on them, I've discovered the proper way to wire these things, and so that's pretty much done and wired. And then on this particular build, I have this aircraft style connector on here, which I never tightened down after I soldered them together. So there we go, and there's our strain relief. And then this is keyed, so it could only go in one way, so there's no way to hook it up wrong. And then that just tightens down. These are rated to 600 volts, 30 amps, and they are IP65 rated, the same as the VFD. So that's really nice if you want to have an option like that, if you're ever going to move your grinder around, and makes it much easier to handle. So we're going to go ahead and test this. We'll run it, and then we'll come back after we verify everything is working the way it should. We'll button this up, and we'll be pretty much ready to go. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to contact me, and I'll get you headed in the right direction. Thanks, and stay tuned for the next video where we'll fire this up and put it through its paces.